Good evening, you're tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. Mega projects that benefit the Rakyat won't be postponed or cancelled. And we discuss some of the critical gaps in the newly passed Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill. That's coming up. Mega projects such as the MRT3, ECRL and Borneo Highway will continue as planned. Economic Minister Dato' Sri Mustafa Mohamad gave his assurance that these projects will not be scrapped or postponed following the government's plans to defer projects in 2022 as part of its cost-saving measures.
Projek-projek MRT3, ECRL, projek-projek ini akan diteruskan. Ya. Saya beri jaminan bahawa projek-projek MRT3 seperti yang dirancangkan, termasuklah kereta api Panda Timur, termasuklah lebuh raya Sabah, Sarawak, Borneo Highway. Ya. Jadi yang ditangguhkan, saya nak ulang kerana ini penting, ialah yang pertama projek-projek baru dan sedia ada yang belum dimulakan proses perolahan dan belum diiklankan. Jadi skopnya cukup jelas.
He added that crucial projects that contribute to the nation's economic well-being and the people's welfare would not be included in the government's cost-saving measures. The government has so far identified 30 projects which have yet to start and will be postponed worth roughly 100 million ringgit. A more complete list of affected projects will be released in September. The High Court today rejected Dato' Sri Najib Razak's application for a Queen's Counsel from the United Kingdom to represent him in the SRC International Corruption Case appeal. Judge Dato' Ahmad Kamal Mohamed Shahid ruled that Jonathan Laidlaw has failed to show that he has special qualifications and experience to handle the upcoming appeal. The judge noted that the SRC case's issues are quite capable of being handled by Malaysian lawyers. Kamal pointed out that SRC trial judge Dato' Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali, while acknowledging the case involved new points of law, also noted that the issues are not too difficult to be handled by the country's judiciary as well as lawyers. Najib's SRC appeal is scheduled to be heard in the federal court for 10 days from August 15th. On December 8th last year, the Court of Appeal upheld the conviction and 12-year prison sentence, as well as a 210 million ringgit fine imposed against Najib for misappropriating 42 million ringgit in SRC funds. The federal court is Najib's final avenue of appeal against his conviction and sentence. The Trilateral cooperative arrangement between Malaysia, Indonesia and the Philippines will be expanded to Brunei. Senior Defence Minister Dato' Sri Hishamuddin Hussein said that the matter is currently awaiting approval from the Sultan of Brunei, Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah.
Hishamuddin was responding to a question by Bukit Bendera MP Wong Hon Wai on whether or not the pact would be expanded to other ASEAN countries. He added that under the TCA, the countries have agreed to establish a maritime command centre in Tawau, Sabah, Tawi-Tawi, Philippines and Tarakan, Indonesia. At the same time, Thailand and Singapore will also be joining a military cooperation with Indonesia and Malaysia in patrolling the Malacca Straits to enhance security in the region and fight against the threat of piracy.
The Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill was finally passed yesterday after more than a decade of fight by lawmakers and civil societies demanding better redress for victims of sexual harassment. Leading up to its implementation, Karen Lai from the Women's Centre for Change highlights a few gaps in the bill that needs to be addressed to ensure that victims are fully protected.
Victims can look forward to basically faster, more affordable and also more accessible redress through the tribunal. However, we would like to reiterate three key areas that still have to be looked into. These were identified as critical gaps in the bill when we started our campaign responding to the bill back in February. And I just want to repeat them here. Firstly, I think it is important to ensure that there are organizational duties to prevent and address sexual harassment, especially in places like the workplace, educational institutions, and so on. So this is not provided for under the bill. Secondly, I think we need to protect against forms of sexual harassment that are not directed at a person per se, but in effect created a hostile, intimidating, or offensive environment. Things like, rape jokes, sexually offensive jokes and all that, that may not be targeted at anyone, but again can have that very negative effect on people. And thirdly, it's really important to protect against victimization for those who wish to speak out for offences against themselves, and also for those who may be reporting on behalf of others in their particular organizations.
Although the legislation was passed, Karen said it's important for the public to know that there are many steps required before the bill is implemented. She recommends for the government to raise more awareness about the law to the public.
I think many people think that when a piece of legislation is passed, when a law is passed, then it's a done deal, settled and implemented immediately. But it's very important for the public to understand that that's not the case, because the redress in this bill is civil in nature, that is between private parties, as opposed to criminal, that is involving the police and the criminal justice system and so on. Implementation will take a while. For example, the establishment of the tribunal itself is quite a complex matter. You need to identify potential members, appoint them, and so on. And this could take a long time, say over a year. Membership of the tribunal, including the gender composition of the tribunal and the backgrounds of the members and all that, could also be an issue, as has been raised in public discussions as well. So on the whole, this could lead to a public perception of delay and ultimately dissatisfaction, and lead to victims and complainants lacking recourse in the meanwhile. But I think members of the public need to understand, the main difference in the nature of the act, and this needs to be addressed in any communications moving forward, such as in roadshows to the public. Of course, with the assurance that the ministry is taking steps towards an action plan to make sure that implementation is smooth.
We will go for a quick break. Stay with us.
Kekalkan kekuatan dan tenaga supaya ceria dan cergas buat apa yang kita suka. Pilihlah Nutrient Optimum dengan protein whey untuk membantu membina dan membaiki tisu badan serta pre dan probiotik. Nutrient Optimum terdapat di kedai berdekatan.
COVID-19 memperlihatkan kepada kita betapa pantasnya adaptasi teknologi di kalangan PKS kita. Niaga AWANI dan Unified Business akan menyelami perjalanan kebangkitan semula PKS kita melalui segmen Jiwa SME setiap Selasa dan Khamis untuk inspirasi anda.
Transformasikan perniagaan dengan Unified Business, rakan digital pilihan anda. Hubungi kami sekarang dan jimat sehingga 50%. Jom Unified Business.
Welcome back. Workers in Malaysia who want to work on a flexible arrangement would be able to do so from September 1st. How should flexible working arrangements best be implemented to avoid conflict in the workplace? Professor Balakrishnan Palasuraman from University Malaysia Kelantan shares his insights on the matter.
First of all, need some engagement, strong engagement between employer and the employees, or to discuss the working arrangement at the enterprise level, company level, and each company have their own, to adopt and adapt. That's the first thing you have to do, right? Discuss with the employees or employee representative or union, whatever. If the company union, talk to the union and discuss on that. Secondly, of course, I suggested 5 days, if possible, 5 rather than 4 days. Because 5 days, I think, in the Asian context, can be, but the 5 days or 7 days or 6 days is not question. The question is how far the employee can complete the work. That's most important.
Balakrishnan emphasized how the arrangement should be done in phases, focusing on one sector at a time.
Some sector like IT sector, we can start first. Maybe I already mentioned automobile industry, like dealers, they can work from home. Entertainment, like all these TV show, they can working from home. Slowly move it towards it. So all sector cannot apply immediately. Those manufacturing, maybe you have to give some kind of rooms. So maybe trial first, everything trial. Like remember last time minimum wage, we're giving them about 6 months like that. After that only we implement. So it's the same thing also now. Any policy in the beginning, of course, there's will be a pro and contra from the ideas. So as employee of the day, what you want actually? You want to make a lot of money, and then the money not give back to employees, and employees also just go there, work and come back. You don't have pride. You don't feel proud working in that particular companies. You don't think that you're contributing to the company. The company will reward you. So it's actually looking at all these elements.
Employees will soon be able to apply for a flexible work arrangement. But will bosses say yes? We continue our discussion tonight on Consider This, where we ask our guests if FWAs can work. On to the international front, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi has submitted his resignation to President Sergio Mattarella. This comes after several key parties in his coalition boycotted a confidence vote in the Senate yesterday. The move plunges the European Union's third largest economy into political chaos. It also signals the likelihood of snap elections as early as October. Draghi has been asked to remain in office in a caretaker capacity. He first resigned last week after a coalition partner, the Five Star Movement, withdrew its support in a confidence vote on a package to tackle Italy's cost of living crisis. The resignation, however, was rejected by Mattarella, who urged him to stay and find a solution. Sri Lanka's six-time Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as president today, ahead of the formation of a unity government. He was elected by legislators yesterday to finish the term of former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Wickremesinghe took his oath of office at the tightly guarded Parliament complex in the capital of Colombo. The ceremony was due to be broadcast live on local television, but was cut off just before the swearing-in took place. Officials have launched an investigation into the unexpected disruption. Sri Lankans have taken to the streets for months to demand their top leaders step down amid an economic crisis that has left 22 million people struggling with shortages of medicine, fuel and food. While protesters have focused on the Rajapaksa family, many see Wickremesinghe as an ally to their political dynasty. Rajapaksa fled the country and resigned last week after protesters stormed his residence.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization will reconvene its emergency committee on monkeypox to examine the worsening outbreak. A second meeting will decide whether the monkeypox constitutes a global health emergency, the highest alarm it can sound. If the outbreak is categorized as a public health emergency of international concern, the committee will propose temporary recommendations on how to manage the spread of the disease. However, there is no timetable for when the meeting's outcome will be made public. A surge in monkeypox infections were reported since early May outside the West and Central African countries, where the disease has long been endemic. So far, nearly 14,000 cases have been recorded in more than 70 countries, including 6 in Singapore. Over in China, a tornado blew through 11 villages in the farming region of Jiangsu, south of Beijing. At least one person was killed, while 25 others were injured. Strong winds, which turned into tornadoes, started battering villages on Wednesday evening. According to the authorities, more than 3,000 houses were damaged. Tornadoes are relatively rare in China, although 12 people were killed and more than 300 injured in Jiangsu at the central city of Wuhan by tornadoes last year. China's most violent tornado in recent decades killed 98 and injured more than 800 in Jiangsu in 2016. The world's oldest male giant panda under human care has died at the age of 35. Hong Kong's Ocean Park, where An had lived most of his life, said his health had showed steady signs of deterioration over the past few weeks, with his food intake declining until he finally stopped eating. He was euthanized this morning to prevent further suffering.
An and a female panda were gifted to Hong Kong by China in 1999. The female panda, Jia, died in 2016 at age 38, making her the oldest ever female panda in captivity. Ocean Park mourned An as a family member who grew with the park and built bonds with locals and tourists. Hong Kong was given another panda pair, Ying and Lele, in 2007 to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the city's return to China. The park has been hoping that the pair could have babies, but they have not so far.
That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. I'm Farhana Sheh. Thank you for watching.